President Hinckley said that every new member of the church needed three things. They needed a friend, a responsibility, and nourishment by the good word of God. And this applies to local leadership. Ward councils are very good and very caring when it comes to the first two, but oftentimes there is a lapse when it comes to nourishment by the good word of God. We have a persistent issue in the church right now where members aren't getting some of that spiritual nourishment they're coming to receive. And as a result, the attendance from sacrament to Sunday school and then from Sunday school to Relief Society and priesthood quorums drops significantly each hour. People are leaving because after sacrament and they've renewed that ordinance, they're not finding that nourishment that they want, and so they're not staying for class. And we see this every Sunday. There's a mass exodus every Sunday out to the parking lot, but even in the building, there is a problem as people ran in the hallways or in the foyers as they play with their phones or chit chat with acquaintances. It's hard to get people to come to class, and sometimes the Sunday school president has a hard job of trying to corral people to where they're supposed to be. When my wife and I were first married, we taught the singles in our ward that didn't quite feel comfortable going to the singles ward yet. And it was a hard thing. Every single Sunday, part of my job was to go to each of the building's many foyers and corral our young single adults to class, like a shepherd trying to find his lost sheep. And me and my wife, we weren't quite sure, what we were supposed to do. We were barely single adults ourselves. We'd only been married for a year. And we were kind of given our manual and told that this was our responsibility, and off we went. We kind of made it up as we went. And it was a hard thing for us. And that's kind of what happens with teachers in the church, is that they're given their manual, if they're lucky, and then they're kind of just sent on their way to figure the whole thing out. And that's a hard thing for some people. Some people are born teachers and born presenters, but others, this is their first time teaching and even maybe public speaking, and they need to get the tools to be able to do that well and do it effectively. When I was a few years older, I was given the calling of the counselor in the Sunday school presidency, and I was really looking forward to kind of my church calling vacation. I'd pass out the roll, ring the bell, find substitutes as needed, and I was kind of excited. A few months into my calling, the Sunday school president for the state gave me a call, invited me to a training that was being held, and I talked to the president, and he said, "You know what? I'm not going to go to that thing. Why don't you go ahead and go for us, and you take notes?" And so I did, and it was amazing the things that I learned that our calling actually entailed. One of the things that the church handbook says about Sunday school presidencies is that they suggest ways members can improve learning and teaching at church and in their homes. And as invited by the bishop, they conduct training and ward council meeting to help improve gospel learning and teaching in the ward. They serve as specialists in the ward's efforts to improve gospel learning and teaching. And I had no idea that was part of our calling, and I was excited because we were given the assignment to go back to our wards and, under the direction of the bishop, hold a training meeting or training class with all of the ward's teachers and those who had been such, and all the auxiliaries and all the callings. When I went to go talk to our president about this, he was not as excited as I was, and he said, "Look, when I took this calling, they told me all I had to do was ring the bell and pass out the roll. I didn't sign on for all this other stuff." And I was a little bit disheartened. And, he said, "Hey, if you want to do it, go ahead." And so I talked to the bishop. I expressed some of my concerns and some of our plans. And I spoke a little bit up too much because the Sunday school president was released a few weeks later, and I was called in his place, which is not my intent and not what I wanted. But I was happy to serve, and we began doing this in our ward, and it made changes. We were mostly tracking this in the youth, and for the youth, attendance went up. We started doing trainings with our teachers. We started doing one-on-one, asked them what worked, what didn't work. We asked for feedback, and it was amazing the changes that were happening. One of the things that we used for that training, for those trainings, was the manual Teaching No Greater Call. That manual is wonderful with tips and tools of how to be a better teacher, to teach with the spirit, and to engage those that are learning. Now, this is something that can be done. We can help teachers be better. I was visiting my old ward, and the lesson on Sunday school was on Isaiah. And I was kind of wondering, okay, Isaiah, let's see where this goes. I'm interested in Isaiah, but also overwhelmed by Isaiah. But this teacher was prepared. He knew the scriptures. He knew how to teach, and he was able to gain our attention, our insights that we didn't know. And I was enthralled. And I felt bad because my dad's ward I was going to visit next for his third hour, but they met at the same times. And so I thought I would leave Sunday school a little bit early and jet across town to my dad's ward where he was teaching for third hour and watch his lesson. But I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave. And I had to pull myself away because I was just so enthralled. And that's the kind of experience that we should be having every Sunday. That's the experience that we should be having to be able to receive that nourishment, that feeling that we are getting something out of this meeting that we couldn't have gotten on our own, couldn't have gotten at home. When it comes to these kinds of things, these are things that you can make happen. One of the few is study the lesson manual for teaching a greater call yourself. You might be a teacher right now in a calling, or chances are at some point you will be. And incorporating that lesson into your daily study, your weekly study, is something that will really help you to prepare for that calling or prepare for the calling you now have. If that's a little bit more overwhelming, I would suggest at the very least that you start reading that lesson before Sunday school and before Priesthood or Relief Society so that you can be prepared to participate. Having learners in class prepared to participate in the class makes all the difference for a teacher to have a class engaged so that you can engage in real, meaningful, spirit-led discussion. And I know that as you guys do these things, that Sunday school will change for you. Priesthood Relief Society will change for you, and it will change for the better.